Hi, I'm Rebbeca Rosen, a spiritual medium and best-selling author. Welcome to my podcast, Small, Medium, at Large. Although small in stature, I've been taking on the big and unusual job of talking to the dead for over 20 years. I serve as a messenger for spirit, helping people to connect to their departed loved ones and guides, while also encouraging them to strengthen their own intuition. What is the lesson in an abusive relationship? To learn forgiveness, how to take back your power? I love this question because it lends to What's Your Heaven, my book, and it's all about soul contracts. And so this is all about we create soul contracts or plans, loose blueprints of the life we're about to incarnate into pre-birth. And we do so with the help of our guides and angels and also the agreement of fellow soulmates or soul group members. So these are the souls that we keep reincarnating with in and out of lifetimes to work together to play the role of teacher or student or both. And the number one way to learn is in relationships. We act as mirrors for each other. And basically what's happening is, you need to come in and heal and balance karma left undone from other lifetimes. So what is the lesson? There's a few different things it could be. It could be you're here to learn boundaries. That person who's the abuser is giving you this amazing opportunity to learn how to set healthy boundaries, to find your own self-worth, to claim that worth, and to really recognize you deserve to be loved, cherished, and adored and honored in relationship. So they're just playing out the role you asked them to play, to trigger you and to show you where you still have work to do, healing that needs to happen. Sometimes you are the old soul who said, I agree to come in and give you, the younger soul, an opportunity here to do and be better, to show up and to, love me and treat me with honor and regard. However, that soul has free will, and that soul, the abuser, if continuing to show up in shadow and make choices from that ego or lower self place, will fail miserably, okay? And then it looks like you are the victim. Yeah, that is the perception. But if you can remember, no, you're not the victim. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you both, because you all agreed to come in and play out this dance, okay? And to at least give that soul the opportunity, knowing that at the end of the day, you're not scarred. Your soul is never scarred, even though it may feel from a very human experience, painful, hurtful, and naturally so. Okay, so that is where we trade roles of teacher and student. And then, the last thing I would say on this is that sometimes you incarnate to experience the other side of the equation this go around, this lifetime. Because let's say in your past life with that same soul, you were the abuser. And your soul said, I really need to understand how my actions, my behavior hurt you. Let's swap roles. And this time, I will experience this to grow greater compassion and forgiveness. So in the end, yes, it's about forgiveness of yourself, of them, and honestly recognizing there really isn't anything to forgive because no one's a victim. No one is a victim because we all chose what's in front of us, whether it was pre-birth or post-birth. If you chose it post-birth, it's because of your energy, your vibration, law of attraction. Your thoughts, your words, your deeds have naturally attracted the situation, the abusive relationship. But the empowering thing to remember right now is that at any moment you can choose again. Nothing is set in stone. And so you absolutely can change this. Take your power back by recognizing that you are an active co-creator and that, this goes back to the 4 agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz, agreement number 2, nothing others do to you is personal. Don't take anything personally. And this is all about the other people projecting their unhealed issues or unconscious guilt onto us, and us just being there, whether, again, we're there as a teacher to give them the opportunity to do and be better, or we are there as the student to learn. And it goes back to everything I just shared. So I hope that gives you some clarity, and more importantly, I hope that empowers you so that you can take your power back and you can choose again. How do you know if a spirit has moved on beyond what you connect with? Like if you felt them before and don't anymore? It's a great question. I get it all the time. So the bottom line is this, is that it's likely going to ebb and flow. So a lot of times when a soul dies, in that first week or so, they're still somewhat around because they're trying to, kind of comfort the living, but also kind of make their rounds and observe what's going on. And this is not always the case of a ghost that hasn't crossed over. Sometimes they have happily crossed over right away. They went to the light, but then they bring their energy, along with the help of usually an angel or guide, down to this level to be around for, like what I just said, comfort the living, or just kind of slowly make sense of the transition. And so you will a lot of times feel them very strongly in the beginning, and then there's a period of time where they just go away and you feel just a complete void. And sometimes, that makes things harder because then you panic. You really feel like the death is real. They're gone. And this is not a one size fits all. Please understand that. But what spirits have showed me is that at that point, what's happening is they're moving on to a place of solitude, whether it's with one guide or a panel of guides. Usually they're doing a life review. So that's where they have to do some real soul searching of the life they just lived, taking inventory of their choices with the group of a loving team spirit here. And what happens is they are energetically unavailable. And so most of their energy is tied up in that life review. So that's why the living would not feel them as strongly, or not get dream visitations, or they're not connecting in meditation. However, that can change. Once they come out of the review, then they pick up where they left off, and they're really strong, and they're giving you signs left and right. So don't panic. Just honor the process and trust. As long as you do your work to pray, which means talking to them, and then meditate, which means listening and making space to receive from them, and then let go, surrender, that if and when the time is right for them to come to you, they will. And so oftentimes spirits will say, invite me into your dreams. I need permission, but also be patient with me. I need time. I'm working on this. Just because you die doesn't mean you know how to project your energy into the living, sleeping person's consciousness. It takes skill and practice. That's why a dream visitation is so amazing. It's a miracle. The same with meditation, but be patient with them. Your only job is to invite them in, let go, let God, trust. You will connect when that timing is right. It really comes down to feeling, okay? So if you feel like they're not fully around, then they probably aren't. But a lot of souls will say, hey, I'm like a doctor on call. Just page me, call me, pray to me. And then they show up. They show up and they drop signs. This happens with my dad all the time, okay? There'll be weeks I don't feel him, and I honor that. He's off doing his work, whether it's with other living loved ones who need him more, or he's working to evolve his soul in the higher heavens. But the minute I ask, he shows up, okay? He'll pop in just to say, I'm here, I hear ya, we're good. And I'll find a sign, like a dime or a nail or whatever it is that day, a license plate. So I would just say to you, that will ebb and flow. And if they really aren't supposed to be around you, because on some level it's holding you back, They want to give you space and grace to live your life, so they pull their energy back so that you can get out of grief. Because let's be honest, it's very bittersweet. If you feel them so much, like they're actually sitting next to you, but you can't physically hold them or talk to them or see them, it's very confusing and it's very painful, because it makes that longing for them and that missing them even greater. So sometimes that's why the guides and angels have agreed they need to pull back for a minute to give you space to heal. That could also be another thing that's going on. But what I would say to you is this: just put your prayer out there and trust that when the time is right, they will show up on some level to let you know that they love you, they are very much with you, and that they're just a prayer away. Does Spirit know when we will die? This is a good question, because this goes back to our soul contracts. Before we're born, I'm sure you've heard me talk about, we set up these loose blueprints of our lives. And in those blueprints, we contract exit points. And exit points are, whether it's one or a handful of opportunities for our soul to leave the body if and when we feel like we have completed our mission on earth, why we came here in the first place. And so because of free will, and our choices, that's going to, what exit we take is going to vary based on a lot of things. But if we're in alignment, making choices from our higher selves, from the frequency of light versus shadow, which is our ego, and from fear. And so Spirit, at the end of the day, does not know. When I do readings, a lot of times they will give predictions on and show me a range of ages of a potential upcoming exit, or sometimes we get access to understand all of the different exits, okay? And again, if you're not ready to go, you bypass the exit. So it becomes a wake-up call or a near-death experience. And then you go on to stay in a body to finish your life lessons. So, but Spirit will sometimes give that information if it's going to be useful or helpful for whatever reason. And then other times I will get, just nothing. Like, I am so not clear. Spirit is not sharing, because it's either that Spirit does not know because that person's free will is so strong and it's hard to tell the way, everything's going to play out. But at the end of the day, your soul knows, and every soul knows on a soul level when it's going to leave, or no soul dies without its own consent. Okay, so this goes back to, on a mind level, when someone leaves, regardless of how they leave or how soon or how late they leave, this is always decided from your higher self and from your soul, not your mind. Because on a mind level, that's the ego. That's where we try and control and play God. Okay, so this is always, any soul that leaves has always left because on a soul level, it has decided it is time. So at the end of the day, it is your soul that knows more so, if at all, than Spirit. So I hope that helps bring you some clarity around this, but also some empowerment to just know that, if you really trust your higher self and your inner guidance, then you have nothing to be afraid of, because you'll make the right decision at the right time, when it's time, and nothing sooner or later than that. Are more angels incarnating at this time, or is it normal for them to incarnate at all? I thought this was a great question, because first of all, the answer is yes. And second, angels don't actually incarnate. And so it's higher evolved souls that are incarnating. Okay. And this ties into a question that I have gotten for years. For those of you who are parents and you have children that, you're wondering, you sense that they are evolved, that they're an old soul, and wondering if this is true. And so let's just start with this. Angels don't incarnate because angels, they've never lived an earthly human life because they're too high of a vibrational frequency to be able to be contained in a limited physical form. And so what we're actually asking here is, are there more evolved souls that are incarnating onto the planet at this time? And the answer is yes. And the reason why is because this planet is in great need of up-leveling to a more evolved consciousness. And so these souls are taking one for the team, coming in to help elevate the consciousness of the planet to a higher place of love and light. Okay, and so now let's do a deep dive here into these angelic beings. We'll call them earth angels, which are all part of in my team spirit, it's the ground crew. It's the living beings in our lives that are like earth angels. They're evolved, advanced souls here to help bring in more light, more love, more wisdom, and to raise the vibration, whether it's ours and or many people's, but also the planet as a whole. So, okay, indigo children, crystal children, rainbow children. You may be familiar, you may not be. These are all considered to be star children, okay? And here's something really funny. So 24 years ago, when the door opened for me with all of this, and my guardian angel and my grandmother came to me, started talking to me, they kept calling me Mia Star, and they said that was my soul name. Well, it took me years to figure out why. Well, Mia is just my soul name. It's a vibration that aligns with my energy. But star, because I am a star child. I'm an indigo. And so here we are. So a star child, or sometimes you hear star seeds, okay? This is also known as a light worker. So this belongs to a group of souls who have agreed to come to Earth to assist in the evolution of the Earth. And star souls have been incarnating on Earth for decades, with the first wave being the original indigos. And this really started back in the 1950s. And there was a huge wave of indigo souls being born between 1950 and 1970, all the way up to the mid 80s. So the early indigos, they're considered pioneers with a really strong spirit, and they can be described as multitasking dynamos, okay? Maybe a little ADD and sometimes a little OCD. They have a warrior spirit, and they really dislike injustice more than anything else. There's a great book by Lee Carroll and Jan Tober. It's called The Indigo Children. The New Kids Have Arrived. So I highly recommend, if any of this resonates, to check out that book. So that is our indigo. And then after that, the next generation of star children, it's called crystal children. And the crystals began coming in the late 80s, early 1990s, although, some maybe came earlier. But the crystals, they're known for their really big, large, beautiful eyes. And these eyes are full of kindness and love. And they're nature loving, they're gentle souls who are all about oneness. And these crystal children, they really understand the interconnected nature of all living beings. They love crystals, hence the name, and gemstones, because they're drawn to their high frequencies. And these crystal children they're gentle, they're kind, loving, and very forgiving. So the difference between crystals and indigos lies in their auras and their vibrational energies. So indigos have a lower frequency than crystals. Crystal children are very warm and caring, but they don't mistake this as a sign of weakness, okay? They are very, very powerful. And then the third wave of star children was the rainbow children, arriving in the first part of the 21st century. And they're here to complete the last stages of the work laid out by the indigo and crystal children. And so these rainbow children are highly evolved souls that have not necessarily incarnated before on Earth, but many have. Okay, so I've heard mixed things in readings, but they are said to have an old soul. Most of these rainbow children have spiritual gifts. They are really strongly clairvoyant, clairaudient, and or clairsentient. So the rainbow children are full of light, full of joy, full of laughter. They bring harmony and balance to their families. In readings, the guides will talk about a baby coming in as a Buddha baby. And that's how I know right away this is a rainbow child. Okay, so it's kind of that easygoing, just full of joy, full of light energy. So these rainbow children are souls in service. They are here to serve humanity. It's almost like they're taking one for the team, coming in to help us grow and evolve, to teach us more than they are here to learn their own lessons. They are kind, they are loving, and they are fearless, let me tell you. They have an extremely high vibration, and this can also oftentimes present as hyperactivity. So they're very enthusiastic, and they respond to color, as can be seen in their creativity. That's why they're called rainbow children. So they are skilled at manifesting, and they think that they can manifest almost anything. And usually, from what I hear, they can. And they exhibit really strong healing abilities, telepathic abilities. And again, they are here on a mission of service. And these children are always working to help others. I have a rainbow child myself. This is Haven. Haven, who found her way in no matter what. She needed to be here on the planet. And let me tell you, she fits all of this. Fearless, just a ball of sunshine. And I feel very blessed that we have this little rainbow child. So if you feel like any of this resonates, whether it's you being one of these, or you have a child or you know someone, I just thought maybe I would run through a checklist just for the common characteristics, to take a mental note as I go through this. And if it resonates, then, knowledge is power. Hopefully this not only validates you or your child, but then it gives you, a framework and better understanding who you are, who they are. And so let's just start with the indigos. Take a mental note as I run through this. Indigos, characteristics of an indigo child: strong-willed and stubborn, have problems with authority. They do not like to be told what to do. Very intuitive, often very psychic. Creative and unafraid of trying something new. Lacks patience, often gets frustrated. Despite being a rebel, they need clear boundaries and structure while growing up. Indigos can be insecure and often misdiagnosed as ADD or ADHD. So that is indigo. Crystal. Characteristics of crystal children. They are usually born to an indigo adult, which makes sense. Touchy-feely, emotional, make decisions based on intuition and feelings. So they're operating from their heart more than their head. Often have allergies and sensitivities. Crystals enjoy solitude. They make lasting friendships. They're really good counselors and mediators. They're often musical. They connect with young children, animals, and the vulnerable. They put comfort well above fashion. They often have to leave high-energy, crowded places because they feel overwhelmed. They have an affinity with water. In terms of gender, they may be gay or bi. They're healers, and they have a very calming, soothing presence. And crystals are sometimes labeled as being on the spectrum because they are so self-contained. And then we have the rainbows. So characteristics of rainbow children. They often appear to be in a world of their own. They are loving and generous beyond. They're sweet, but with a will of steel. They're brave and able to withstand hardship. They often have to care for others. They're just natural-born caregivers. They're very telepathic, very psychic. They have a very high energy, both physical and psychically. They also have large eyes, just like the crystals. Some rainbows are late to start speaking, sometimes as late as 3 or 4 years old. Not all. In terms of gender, they can be gender fluid, gender everything fluid, but very inclusive and accepting. And again, this is not for all, but for many. And these rainbows really don't care what people think of them. They are that solid in who they are, and they know who they are, and they know why they're here. So again, with all of these, keep in mind, it is not a one-size-fits-all. I might have just ran down this list and many resonate, but not all, and that's fine. Me personally, when I went through this list, I'm an indigo for sure, but I have definitely some crystal characteristics. Okay, so they do overlap. Keep that in mind. So I hope that's helpful. Bottom line is this. There are many light workers, many star seeds, earth angels, whatever we want to call it, on the planet right now to help us evolve and grow our consciousness to match this higher frequency so that we can heal the planet and bring some order and grace back, because clearly that is what we all need.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of Small Medium at Large. For more information about my offerings and events, and for additional resources on your spiritual journey, including my self-guided courses, books, and blog videos, please visit my website, RebeccaRosen.com. You can also follow me on social media by searching @Medium Rebecca Rosen on Facebook and Instagram. As always, wishing you brightest blessings and all love.